My SEC power rankings are out there to be critiqued. I've even got them in graphic form for those of you watching on YouTube. And Jay of Locked On Sooners is here to discuss. Jay Smith, his full name, but just Jay for today, according to the name he's got down here in the lower. Oh, there he is. There he is. Jay Smith. Jay Smith is here. Now we know who it is. I wasn't entirely certain before. I'm also not entirely certain how everybody feels about my preseason SEC power rankings, Jay. And for those on YouTube, they look like this. I'll explain for the audio audience. In order 1 through 16, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, Oklahoma. I had them lower and moved them up. Ole Miss, Florida, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky. You know what I really considered? I considered putting Vanderbilt over Auburn. I thought about it. I really did. I really did. Vanderbilt won the game last year. I could make that case, Jay.
Can you do me a favor and go ahead and do that, though? Because that's kind of where I was sitting at here was, so your rankings aren't bad. They're actually very fair. A lot of veteran quarterback presence in a way, or veteran rosters. A lot of returning production that you have set going on here. Georgia has to be number one because they won the SEC championship. Yeah. So let's not be dumb here and pretend like they're, just because their quarterback's gone and the guy that played in the SEC championship as well as the playoffs, like he, played second half. Like he's chopped liver. We've seen his ability against the number 2 team, so I expect him to continue to potentially ascend. But no, all this is fair. The Ole Miss piece with Austin Simmons, we've got questions about that. It's no shade to Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin is infamous for living in the portal. So cohesion is also going to be of the utmost of importance. Lagway, thought Florida may have been a little bit higher, maybe one spot. A&M,
Okay. Here's the thing. Because, frankly, from a roster standpoint, I think I actually like Florida at least as much, if not more, than Ole Miss. I definitely like Florida's quarterback situation with DJ Lagway more than Austin Simmons. What I can't get past, though, even though I feel that way about a really important position in quarterback that heavily influences my rankings in every conference, is who you have behind center. It's how everybody should view it. I'm not a Billy Napier guy. And everybody is praising Napier because of the second half of last season. Look at what happened. They turned it around. They were a different team. They did all these things. Okay, that's great. Are we just going to forget that after 3 weeks last year, everybody, myself included, said this guy should be fired and they should go hire Lane Kiffin? So what I see with Billy Napier was a positive trend, but still the same inconsistencies, still the same floor and ceiling that I think he showcased over the last several years. I'm just not a Billy Napier guy. So that's what it came down to, as much as I like Lagway more than I trust Simmons, who I just don't know about right now. I do trust Lane Kiffin more than I trust Billy Napier.
That's an interesting take. And honestly, I don't think you're wrong there. The trust factor is critical when it comes to judging a lot of these coaches. And I'm going to be honest, I'm really surprised that you have Oklahoma at number 6 because of the trust factor. Granted, Brent Venables has done exactly what Oklahoma hoped he would do, was turn this team into a really good defensive team. He just sucks at the offenses, boo-boo. Now you brought in a new offensive coordinator who also brought their quarterback and a really good running back. Mm-hmm. That could change. But the defense did exactly what you expected. Billy Napier is a really good offensive guy, and the team did get better as the season progressed, while at the same time, you don't trust the judgment there. Lane Kiffin's going to give you good offenses, regardless of who's throwing the ball. Austin Simmons is going to put up some numbers. We just got to see how his decision-making is in the critical components, that's usually Lane's Achilles heel. Texas A&M kind of surprises me, man. You're not sold on the Aggies at all?
I had them higher. I did. And I'm tempted to flip Texas A&M. I wouldn't move Florida out of the 8th spot. I would put Texas A&M at 7 before I would put Texas A&M at 8, just because I don't think Florida should be any lower than where they are. I think I have Florida ranked pretty perfectly. I went back and forth on this situation with Texas A&M and Ole Miss. And I think there's a clear gap, by the way. The line of demarcation for where my confidence level really starts to drop off is after number 5. I feel really good. I mean, 1 through 5 for me, Jay. Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU, South Carolina. That, when I was putting together my rankings, that was done like that. Like, oh, I know. I know that those are the 5 that I'm going to put at the top. I went back and forth. I did have Texas A&M higher. I like Mike Elko, like the roster, like their offensive coordinator, like Marcel Reed. But what do I love? Like what I like those things. What do I love about Texas A&M? What should I love? If you think they're a little bit low, what should I love? Because I like Lagway more than I like Marcel Reed. Not that I don't think he's solid. And I know that Lane Kiffin has a higher floor at this point in his coaching career, and he's got so much continuity compared to Mike Elko in his second season with Texas A&M, who I do think will continue to be really successful for the Aggies. This was a much like 6 through 9, very interchangeable to me. And then there's another line, I think, before you go to the next tier of teams in my view. But that's ultimately where I came down. Do you find that objectionable?
No, I do. And I actually think it's fair. Now this is where I'm really curious. You're 11 through 16. It feels like it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. So you trust Missouri? I get schedule-wise you could trust them, but you trust Missouri with a new quarterback and none of their weapons they had on offense anymore?
Well, they're in the bottom tier of this for a reason. I think they've proven that their floor is pretty high. And, yeah, last year they had some outcomes in big games like Texas A&M that was not exactly confidence-inspiring. But I don't think that they've recruited poorly. I don't think that they are talent deficient. I don't think they are A-plus talent team, which is why I still had them behind Tennessee. I think Eli Drinkowitz is a fine coach. I think Josh Heupel's a better coach. If Nico was still there with Tennessee, they would be much higher. They'd probably be above Florida if Nico was still there. But instead, they're rolling with Joey Aguilar because of that whole situation, and that knocked them down a number of pegs in my book. Even though I like Josh Heupel, I just don't expect Tennessee to be able to repeat the caliber season they had a year ago. I think that's asking too much after all of that. But with Missouri and Auburn, Auburn was one. I honestly almost had Auburn lower. I've got
really?
I almost had Auburn lower.
They're the media darling right now.
Yeah, I think they're fine. That's it. I think they went with Jackson Arnold. Here's the thing. I think Hugh Freeze is taking a gamble on a year where he has to win. He's got to get to at least 7 wins, or I think he should be shown the door. And he went out and got a guy who you're familiar with in Jackson Arnold, who, here's what we know for certain about Jackson Arnold, Jay. If you don't support him correctly, he is going to struggle. That's the only for sure thing we know about the former Oklahoma Sooner. You give him a suboptimal situation, he's not going to be good. Now, he's got a couple of really good receivers. I love the Singleton addition from Georgia Tech in the portal. Cam Coleman is a stud, but what about everything else? It should have been better last year. That was a perception-shifting season for me with Hugh Freeze running the Auburn football program. That team should have been better. There is no other way to see it. And the only reason they weren't is because the offense didn't execute. The defense wasn't some mess. It wasn't a disaster. They weren't void of talent on the offensive side. They couldn't make it work. No, Peyton Thorne's not some Heisman quarterback, but my confidence in Hugh Freeze plummeted significantly after that. That's why I have Auburn all the way down number 12.
No, that makes sense. The question's going to be is how long will Jackson Arnold be out there and how long will it be before Deuce Knight starts pushing? And like you said, around Hugh Freeze, he's already getting a lot of bad press right now because he likes to golf. A lot more than he probably should.
Quite frankly, I was on the course with my dad earlier today for a couple hours, man.
You also weren't in the peak of your recruiting season of OV season either when you decided to go out there and do a lot of golfing instead of talking to recruits and watching your guys flip. Let's just keep it a buck.
This is true.
This is when you're supposed to golf. You're right before SEC Media Days. Take a week off, go golf, go decompress, disconnect. There's nothing wrong with that. But when your team is starting to lose a lot of recruits and it doesn't feel like there's a path for you to gain more, it feels very tone deaf for what you need to do at Auburn, especially when people feel like if you don't get 7 wins, you should be fired.
Yeah, it's going to come down to what happens on the field, because certainly the recruiting is not going to save him at the moment. Real quick, 60-second thoughts on Oklahoma. I like the defensive trend. I like the personnel they have there. I like Mateer. I don't know that I love him yet. I want to see him play a few games in the SEC compared to the schedule he played a year ago, but the arm talent, the running abilities there. I like Jaden Ott. I like some of their pieces. I think Arbuckle is good, but maybe not great as an OC in the SEC. So your 60-second thoughts on me power rating Oklahoma number 6, which I think is the biggest risk I have in these preseason rankings, by the way.
I think it's very fair. Oklahoma does bring back a lot of talent, and the defense should be just as stout if they have an offense that's halfway competent. The offense is not going to be ranked in the hundreds. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to go ahead and just put that out there and proclaim it today. This offense is top 50. They'll move up in your rankings very fast because then the defense doesn't have to do as much work. We're seeing a bunch of new quarterbacks. Who's going to be seeing a new defense. And also, Oklahoma's considered having one of the best defenses in the SEC. Go talk to any of the experts. They'll tell you that. That's a good thing for John Mateer to learn from. It's a good thing for John Mateer to make adjustments from, is he's going against one of the best defenses in the country right in front of him who's not pulling their punches. They're making that man work, and it sounds like he's responding like a leader should.
Veteran quarterbacks, new quarterback. Well, not as many veteran quarterbacks, but a lot of new quarterbacks in the SEC. Only a few veteran quarterbacks. These in-between guys like John Mateer, coaching pressure. I can't wait for the SEC, or really the entire college football season. We're less than a month and a half away. That is exciting stuff. Jay Smith, Locked On Sooners, great as always. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.